Rated M for mature.
Don't let your kids watch it!
Hey there, Artie!
Here we are. Oh, this is where we had the barbecue party last time. The van stopped in the shrine's parking lot. Also parked there were numerous other vans with loudspeakers mounted on top of them to act as makeshift propaganda vehicles. On the side of each vehicle was scrawled, "The dam project must be demolished. Defend our homeland to the last. No Oyashiro-sama's anger." Or a slogan of a similar kind. They gave the feeling that even without using their loudspeakers, there was enough to overwhelm any onlookers. Vertical banners were erected in various places. The contents of those banners were similar. They were all objections against the dam, or crude insults towards the government. There were horizontal banners, placards, and so on and so forth. They proclaimed that, without a doubt, this was the headquarters of the Onikafuchi Guardians. For Rika-chan, however, this hectic place was also her home. So we have, Rika. There you are. Rika-chan crawled over my lap and exited the vehicle first. Makino had noticed I was looking at protest banners.
前座はダム反対運動の事務所も兼ねてましてね。こんな風景もあんたらには反安保闘争みてえで懐かしいでしょ。
Student movements against government policies, movements that bordered on terrorist activity, were at one time commonplace, if only in order to garner global attention. Students holding out in lecture halls, brawling with riot squads that charged in. It was an age where wasting one's youth like that was widely considered a road to glory. It was slightly before my time.
私は別に活動家ではありませんので。
I'm just Akasaka.
普通に学び、普通に卒業しました。国の政策にあのような暴力や立てこもりで対抗しようというのが。
Don't agree with violence, huh?
私は。
はあ、あんたそれはそれで立派な意見さお持ちだね。
政策に意見したかったら。同じ意見の政治家に投票するか、自ら政治の世界に飛び込み、正当な手続きを持って意見を主張するべきであると思っています。
It is a nice thought, but I also get the criticism that most candidates suck, because most of the time if you're running for office, you're probably not very qualified, because most of the people that would be good for office are too smart to run.
それが民主政治の原点です。それに、暴力で挑戦するなど、
It looks like Rika's just smiling proudly at us, like, yeah, that's right! For a Yunnin, you have some fine beliefs. I saw that feeling of respect reflected in Makino's gaze. At that moment, something tugged at my sleeve.
What
are you talking about? Violence is the only way. Rika-chan, feeling like she was the only one who didn't understand the conversation, had a look of displeasure on her face. That expression was so charming I had to keep myself from grinning like an idiot. Yeah, you do. It's often said that a father wants to spoil his daughter rotten. I think I understood that feeling very well.
ごめんね。リカちゃんには難しい話だったね。日本は平和の国だから、自分の言いたいことは平和的に訴えなきゃいけない。暴力で訴えてはいけない。ということさ。
I mean, if you have to use violence to get your point across, your point probably isn't holding water. No matter how much I explained, a girl who was just boasting about being able to carry digits over when adding things probably wouldn't understand. It probably wasn't something to talk about in front of Rika-chan anyway. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, serious, Rika. Even if I regretted my careless words, it was too late now. Here I was, at the main headquarters of an organization, telling them their way of doing things was illegal. Preaching that violence was not the answer. A complicated feeling had mixed itself with the respect of Makino's gaze. It was then that I finally realized. It wasn't that simple. There wasn't a soul who would argue that what I was saying wasn't correct. Using violence to get one's way was something that everybody knew you shouldn't be proud of. However, right now, Hinamizawa was in a predicament that couldn't be overcome with peaceful means alone. The legality of the Hinamizawa Dam project, through the efforts of various propaganda campaigns enacted by the Onikafuchi Guardians, was being called into question. If they further strengthened their campaign, they might be able to suspend or change the construction plans. But that was at the most just a possibility. If the government proceeded with the construction as planned, it wouldn't be long before this place was at the bottom of a lake. If it wasn't for the unrestrained resistance of the residents of Hinamizawa, this place might have already been underwater.
ここでしか生きていけないのです。
Well, I mean, you can move elsewhere. It's just inconvenient.
都会では生きていけないのです。
Well, I don't want you to live in the city. The city sucks. The words of this remarkable young girl were all too accurate, carrying with them the screams of the hearts and minds of the residents of Hinamizawa. Of course, there was nothing I could say to respond to that. I could only respond to Makino and Rika-chan's heavy words of silence.
すみません。よそ者が気安く言えるような問題ではなかったですね。謝罪します。
Makino, unsure of how to reply for a while, could only laugh pointlessly.
お客人たちのようなよそに住んでる方々には関係ねえことです。ひなみ沢さん気に入ってくださったんなら、お客人のお友達みんなにもひなみ沢さん素晴らしいところだって宣伝してください。
Honestly, word of mouth is more powerful than people give it credit for. Speaking of which, tell all your friends about this awesome YouTube channel.
そういうのが何十年何百年と広がっていけば、この村さダム底に沈めるなんてふざけた計画もやがてはついえるんですかね。
He followed that with a smile that said, "Please don't think much of it." Makino letting me not worry that much really was a stroke of good fortune. Becoming infatuated with the idea of making friends with a little girl had made me completely forget my apprehension of being in enemy territory. Being reminded of this right before I was going to step foot into their headquarters might have been a good thing. If we'd had this exchange in the middle of the office, if there was a short-tempered youth in there, they might have come at me. Thinking of how extreme they were, in the worst case, my life could have been in danger. It seemed that I looked quite despondent at the moment. Makino, thinking he had said something wrong, became flustered trying to think of a way to improve my mood.
本当に軽率なことを言いました。本当にすみません。
いいえ、そんなにお気にされないでください。
今日案内してもらった村のあちこちはどこもとても美しく素晴らしい場所ばかりでした。もう一度来たいと心底思わされました。そんな美しい村がダムの湖底に沈むことになれば必死の戦いになるのもわかります。
He's smooth. I think he's digging himself out of the hole a little bit. Let's go, Akasaka. I had somehow managed to use my despondent look to change the topic in my favor. After a bit, Makino had returned to his usual high spirits. It seemed he believed I completely sympathized with his point of view.
そうそう。そんな話はこれくらいにしましょう。本当にとても景色さえいいところがあるんです。
Is it at the top of like those 800 stairs? Is it at the Jade Palace with the Furious Five?
赤坂。
Rika-chan, seemingly happy to be free from all the boring and gloomy adult talk, bounded up the stone steps. There was no real need to run, but in order to catch up with her, I also darted up the steps. There were several tents belonging to the town council erected on the shrine grounds. Inside the tents were several folding tables and chairs, and a number of older town council members were livening things up with chit-chat. They weren't saying anything incendiary like, "The damn project must be destroyed!" It was just some relaxed idle chit-chat between the local geezers. The normal sort of calming scenery. Ooh. Oh, I like this music. I think we had this in the past, during some of the plot expositions. At the entrance of a shed that looked like a meeting place, there was a large sign erected with Onigafuchi Guardian's headquarters written in bold brushstrokes. That was their base of operations. To be honest, it was a bit of a letdown. If you asked what I had been imagining, this is a bit embarrassing, but I'd have thought that it would be something much more dramatic, with barbed wire fences and barricades. My first impression of the place, though, was completely different from that. It looked like a simple backwater town hall. It didn't look like anything other than exactly that. The old folks who were chatting had noticed Rika-chan's presence.
リカちゃまじゃないの。もう子供はお家に帰る時間だよ。
ここは僕のお家なのですよ。
Yeah, it's time for you to head home. The old folks guffawed, since she wasn't wrong. From that exchange, I could tell this Rika Furude girl was loved by everybody. Except the...
牧野さん。
Oh, new guy! Wait, hang on. It's a new guy. Let's go. We haven't seen this boy before. I wonder who he is.
電話をくれた観光の人は。
Oh man, you told everybody about that, Makino?
そんですよ。こちら村長さんに。Oh!
This is Kimiyoshi. This is the guy that Shion 100% murdered in Act 2. He smiled brightly, but there was no mistaking he would be scary if he got angry. By the look of things, this old man was the president of the Onigafuchi Guardians, none other than Kichiryo Kimiyoshi himself.
ようこそひなみぞへ。
He looks a little shifty, I gotta admit. Alright. Oh, he doesn't have a sprite in the original version, and he only has a console sprite. Interesting. So he's like the two little boys in the class, in that he didn't get a Steam sprite, they just reused his console sprite. That's fine.
いかがでしたか。静かでゆっくりしたところでしょう。
ええ、今日一日美しい場所をいくつも堪能させていただきました。貴重な機会をお与えくださったことを感謝します。
へえ、今時の若い方なのにまた真摯な方だね。
Oh, he doesn't like young people, except Rika.
喜一郎、赤坂に見晴らしのいいところを案内したい
Yeah,
の
come on, Kichiro, can we go, please? Thinking that the formalities between myself and the mayor had gone on for too long, Rika-chan butted into the conversation. For her to call the mayor by his first name, I felt it was a little strange, but none of the villagers seemed to mind. A girl of the Furude household, one of the three families, but he's also the head of one of the three families. She was probably different than the average villager.
赤坂、こっちなのですよ。
Oh, I can't say no to that face. Rika-chan tugged at my sleeve. Not resisting, I allowed myself to be pulled over. And waiting for me was a magnificent view.
これは
Yeah, boy! That's a pretty nice
す
view.
ごい。
Where's Keiichi's house? Who the heck is Keiichi? Oh, sorry. It was an observation deck that looked down on the village. I like this giant pan. They, knowing that this was the best view in the entire village, kept quiet as I stood there awestruck. I was holding a camera, but had completely forgotten to even glance through the viewfinder. This view, no matter what kind of film it was printed on, it wouldn't be able to show everything. Rika doesn't use honorifics, it's kind of off-putting. No, I like that, because, you know, in English we don't have honorifics, so for me that's just normal. If there was a way to explain it, it would only be what I would be able to put into words. It was just such a breathtakingly spectacular view that I struggled to find a comparison. For a while, I was left awestruck. I could only stand there and wonder. A cool breeze helped abate the heat rushing through my body. That comfortable sensation also left me speechless. I'd like to see that in winter, too, if it was buried under like a blanket of snow. That could be beautiful, too. Rika-chan, who had been holding onto my sleeve the entire time, spoke.
僕の一番のお気に入りの場所なのですよ。
I see why. As she said that, she showed me another adorable smile. That smile seemed very fleeting. If you ask why, that was because the view from her favorite spot would eventually be submerged under the deep green waters of the dam reservoir. Not even blue, it's green! Oh man! Not the algae-filled water. Oh, lame. Honorifics are kind of the equivalent of Mr., Miss, Sir, man. Okay.
こんな村が湖底に沈むことになってるなんて信じられないよ。
I know. I said it quietly so that only Rika-chan could hear it. You've only been there in Speed, but it's very beautiful, and there's a road up to the spot where you can get that exact view. That's awesome. I do recall you saying that this was based off of a real-life location, and that you've been there. That's pretty cool, honestly. I also imagine that this would make the game a lot scarier, potentially, if you actually lived there in real life. Either that or you wouldn't be able to take it seriously, because I'm sure they're taking a lot of artistic liberties. I regretted it as soon as I did. For those words were all too cruel. However, Rika-chan didn't let them cast a cloud on her expression. In fact, she replied with a smile.
沈みませんよ。
Oh! It floats! We put rafts underneath it all.
ダム計画なんて必ずなくなっちゃいますのです。
Because I'm going to kill the foreman! It was just like a little girl to say something like that. There was no basis for her saying so. It just was her wish.
赤坂はこの村が沈んでしまうと思っていますか？
Is this where we get the choice?
沈んでほしくなんかないよ。
I know how important this dam was. I knew that it was necessary. I just didn't want to recognize the sacrifices that would be made. I agreed with the project in general, but I couldn't agree with some of the details. But if it meant that this girl's beloved scenery wouldn't be taken away from her, I might be able to object to the dam. I might be able to ignore the interests of the nation, the development of Japan, all for the sake of one girl's smile. I'm not really much of a humanist, but... how sentimental of me.
沈みませんよ。ダムの計画はもうすぐなくなりますですから。
How do you know that? Her words weren't just hopes and dreams, but were seasoned with a hint of resolve. As if she was talking about an unchangeably predetermined outcome. As surely as the sun rising in the east.
もうすぐなくなる？
Wanting to ask her why she believed that, I turned around.
はい。なくなりますのですよ。
どうしてそう言い切れるんだい？
それはなのです。
I overheard them talking about a plan. It's kind of like the train question, save 10 people or save 2. Oh, the trolley problem? Yeah, I guess. But would it not be possible to build a dam somewhere else? I don't know that much about dam construction anyways, so... She seemed to want to answer, but as though unable to find the right words, she swallowed back what she was about to say.
赤坂が何をしてもしなくても、ダム計画は今年で終わりになってしまうのです。
Interesting. Hey Liz, welcome to the stream. Only mention of winter in this game was Mion making the group do the Rio Carnival as part of... I don't remember that part. That was probably just an offhanded feign back in, like, episode 1. Also, reminder to people, I don't think people need to be reminded, but if you do know, like, how the story goes, no spoilers. That will not be good. Don't spoil it for people. I'm not saying that you are spoiling it or that people do know. Just, I thought I'd throw that out there. I think it goes without saying, but there you go. Because if people say, like, oh, I bet this happens, I'm assuming that they don't know and that they're just guessing. Even if they are spoiling it, I don't realize. Oh, she murders the manager. Like, yeah, exactly. Totally. Definitely 6-year-old Rika's gonna do that.
もう決まっていることなのですよ。
It's been decided by God himself. That was a lie. If something like that had already been decided, then the Onikafuchi Guardians would have no reason to continue existing. From my point of view, it was that they were doing nothing more than throwing themselves into an endless battle. If they knew the dam project was cancelled, it would feel much more relaxed around here. This village, though, could hardly be called relaxed. For evidence of that, I just had to remember how charged the atmosphere was at the checkpoint, or at the bus stop. The villagers, with their misplaced resolve, were still fighting. And this girl, even knowing the villagers' grim resolve, had already declared their victory. The villagers, throwing themselves into this endless war, and this optimistic girl who said that they had already won. That contrast was somehow strange.
どうしてそう思うんだい？
I think it was the first of those, DX. I think you are just very perceptive. Or if everybody predicted that, maybe I'm just stupid. Oh, it was mentioned back in Chapter 2 when Rena and Keiichi were facing Mion and waiting for her to get back. Okay. I don't remember a lot of the little details, especially for the little skits that happen. I try to remember the big stuff, but even then... That's the problem with playing these once or twice a year.
何か確信があるなら私に教えてくれないかい？
Rika-chan stayed silent for a while, seemingly choosing what to say.
だって、
だって
Because! She looked like she was lost on whether she should continue or not. As if she was troubled on whether it was okay for her to say it. That kind of expression.
決まっていることなのです。他に言いようがないのですよ。
決まっているって
Hmm.
言ったって。
It really is just like a little girl to say something like that. I couldn't believe it was actually true. She was the only one saying such things with such confidence. My real mission, that I had forgotten about during this fun-filled day, resurfaced at the back of my mind. The kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Had the Onikafuchi Guardians kidnapped the minister's grandson and already succeeded in negotiating the cancellation of the dam project? Did Kimiyoshi actually already know that and was just playing dumb? Was that what this girl was really telling me? That's gonna be hard to explain back at headquarters, though. Like, guys, they were definitely responsible. How do you know? This girl implied it. It's like, uh-huh, sure. The girl called out my name suddenly.
なんだい？
東京へ帰れ。
What? How do you know? What? Huh? I wasn't only surprised at that sudden command. Ever since I came to this village, I had never once mentioned I was from Tokyo. That's what I thought! How do you know that? Well, based on my accent, she might have been able to guess where I was from. What was I getting so worked up over? It's probably because she's glaring at us with that very serious expression. It was probably the sudden and complete change in her demeanor.
あなたはさっさと東京に帰った方がいい。
Why is your voice way deeper now?
でないとひどく後悔することになる。
Bro, compare her voice here to where it was before. She's like 6 octaves deeper. The girl had been holding my sleeve the entire time. She'd been tugging at my sleeve since hurriedly dragging me over to show me this wonderful view. But this was the adorable Rika-chan, who I'd spent the entire day with. There was no way she could have been replaced with a doppelganger when I wasn't looking. She had been holding onto my sleeve this entire time, but somehow this girl was someone other than Rika-chan. She looked like Rika-chan, but she wasn't. She was some girl I had never met before. She doesn't have the reptile eyes, though. That girl had told me in an indifferent voice that I would eventually regret coming to this village from the bottom of my heart.
それがあまりにもみすぼらしくて気の毒今のうちから警告してあげているのです。
どうして私が後悔することになると。
Oh!
いちいちうるさいな。
What the heck? This is so freaking weird. I couldn't believe that I was hearing such cold words come from Rika-chan's mouth. I just couldn't believe it. Was somebody impersonating her, using ventriloquism or something? Thinking that, I wanted to take a look around, but the girl's gaze had me pinned down, making me unable to move.
あなたの親はあなたが赤信号の横断歩道の真ん中にいるときどうして危ないのかを全部説明し終えるまであなたの手を引っ張らないの？引っ張るでしょ。まず歩道まで連れ戻してからなぜ危険なのかを解くでしょ。つまりはそういうこと。
What is up with Rika? The girl I had spent time with, Rika Furude, would not speak like that. She would speak with a cuteness befitting her age, with brief, childish remarks, expressing her emotions honestly. She definitely wouldn't speak with such pointed words.
警告はした。勘違いしないでほしいのは私があなたを嫌いだからこういうことを言ってるわけじゃないってこと。死んでもいい人に危険なんかを教える必要はないのだし。
Is she possessed by a demon right now? That's my guess.
君は誰だ？リカちゃんじゃない。
Yee! Was not expecting the creepy smile there. What the heck? What the heck? Wait, let me change. Yeah, oh farts! Oh jeez, Louise, that's one of the creepiest sprites. Oh jeez, oh man, I'm peeing my pants right now. That one doesn't look nearly as creepy. Yikes! I am gonna get nightmares about that face. Yow! Wow! All right, yeah, creepy Rika is really something. As soon as I accused her of not being Rika-chan, she let out a strange, quiet giggle. Yep, demons. It was a laugh not befitting a child of her age. It was like she was possessed by something. Her change was just that total and complete. Was Rika-chan being attacked by some terrifying phenomenon? That occult idea came to my mind without any sort of hesitation. Rika-chan is acting strange. Somebody, help! Thinking that I'd yell that, I turned to where the mayor was. I immediately realized he was looking at us with a smile. That's right. To him, it looked nothing more like me and Rika-chan fooling around. He didn't notice that there was something terrifying happening to her.
赤坂の怖がり。
The girl had obviously grasped that I was afraid. Noticing that and calling me a coward, she laughed again. That cackling girl, approaching me in a strange manner while still laughing, lost her balance and fell flat on her face. Rika-chan fell down. If it was just a while before, I would have extended a hand to help her up without hesitation. But now, extending a hand to this ominous girl who looked like Rika-chan, but wasn't, required a bit more courage than I had at the moment. This is gonna be where she goes back to normal. Yep. Demons. The girl cried out thus. She then squirmed upright and dusted herself off. Afterwards, she looked around restlessly as a blank expression crept across her face. You've got to be kidding me. Was she making fun of me? How did she speak 6 octaves lower if she wasn't possessed by something else? That way of acting. It was as though, after being possessed by something, she had lost her memories of what happened. Yeah.
冗談だろ。リカ。
Maybe she is trying to warn him about getting murdered, but it seemed pretty threatening.
Me.
I don't know if Rika-chan had heard me or not. She just cried out like that, as if questioning herself.
お客人、リカちゃまも
Uh-oh, it's an old woman.
お茶が入りましたよ。
I'm not drinking the tea.
塩大福もあるからに、ぜひ食ってきんさいな。
An old lady wearing a smock was waving energetically from the entrance of the office. Hearing that there were snacks, Rika-chan's expression changed.
わーいなのです。
A carefree smile. That was a familiar smile. The one that belonged to be the embodiment of my ideal daughter. Any hint of the creepy girl that was just there, spouting sinister words, had vanished.
ほら、リカちゃま。
Maybe she is Oyashiro's mouthpiece.
手を洗ってきんさいね。
She's supposed to be descended from Oyashiro-sama. That's what Takano said back in, I can't even remember if it was Act 2 or Act 3.
バッチおててにゃ食わせるまんじゅうありんせんね。ちゃんと洗いますですよ。
Yeah, you're gonna wash your hands of that scene, aren't you, Rika?
み
Rika-chan responded with vigor, running off to the washing station that was along the side of the office. She stopped halfway, turning around to call me.
早く来ないから、僕は赤坂の分までおまんじゅうが食べられてホクホクなのです。
That's okay, I suddenly lost my hunger.
お手手を洗わない人はおまんじゅうが食べられないのですよ。
No matter how you looked at it, that was Rika-chan. Those words and the way she said them. No matter how you heard them, they were definitely Rika-chan's.
ほんでお客人。
See, I don't trust someone whose first name is old and last name is woman. I would trust her a little more than Kid Napper, but still.
大人なんだからお手本を示してやってくださいな。
I'm sure she knows how to wash her hands. The old lady urged me to wash my hands. Without any resistance, I lined up beside Rika-chan at the wash station. Splish splash! I stared at Rika-chan, intent on washing her hands properly, like she had probably learned at school.
みー、間違っていますか？
Yeah,
間違い。
you told me to get bent and had a creepy smile on your face.
僕のお手手の洗い方です。金シールを4個しかもらったことないです。僕はお手手を洗うのがきっと下手なのですよ。
Perhaps.
間違ってなんかないよ。それだけしっかり洗えてれば十分だよ。
それだけではダメなのですよ、赤坂。ちゃんとたわしを使って爪の間の赤も落とさないと金シ
You
ール
gotta
を
get
も
the
らえ
dirt
ない
out.
ので
It's
す。
true.
うん。リカちゃんは真面目で偉いな。
You're also a master at voice manipulation.
ニパー、赤坂に褒められましたのです。
No matter how you looked at it, it was Rika-chan. There was no trace of that girl from before. Exactly what was this sinister girl?
リカちゃん、さっきのあれはどういう意味だい？
I've heard of manju before. Yeah, it's basically fried dough. It's like Japanese elephant ears.
さっきリカちゃんは私に東京へ帰れってそう言っただろ。
言いましたのですか？
Yeah. I was at a loss for words. She didn't remember what the girl just now had said. Like I would ever believe something as occult as that could happen. Like I would ever believe that Rika-chan could be possessed by that strange girl and say those creepy things.
リカちゃんが確かにそう言ったよ。
I definitely didn't mishear that.
みー、
Her expression told me that. Despite my saying so, she had no idea. She wasn't playing dumb. She actually didn't know. Exactly what was that just now? Just as Rika-chan had. I let out a look of confusion creep across my face. The two of us, both looking like we had no idea what was going on, must have certainly been a humorous sight to behold. While partaking of the tea and snacks, I was shown a propaganda film shot by the Guardians that highlighted their resistance efforts. And this is us shooting the police, what? Older folks talked passionately about how long and grueling the fight against the dam was, but they fell on deaf ears. I was transfixed by Rika-chan, who had heard these stories countless times before and was nodding off. Eventually, Rika-chan noticed that I was staring at her and smiled as she rubbed her eyes. That smile was Rika-chan's, after all. There was no hint of that sinister shadow. After that, my unreasonable fear of Rika-chan lessened with the passing of time. But I could by no means forget what had happened. Yeah, you're not forgetting that. It eventually grew dark. The mayor said that they had prepared dinner, but I said I would come again tomorrow and took my leave. I had to return to the hotel and file my regular report with the section chief.
そうですか。では、また明日もぜひいらっしゃい。お電話さくれれば、すぐに迎えを出しますんでね。
Well, that's very nice of you.
ご好意感謝します。ぜひ明日も遊びに来ようと思います。
ねえ、さしてあげてくださいな。あんた、レイカちゃまに大層気に入られたみたいですね。
Until she didn't.
赤坂は明日も来ますですか？
No, I don't think so.
明日は5次元で終わりですから、3時くらいに来てくれると嬉しいのですよ。
Have a good night, Liz, and thanks for joining in. Please come again. That pure smile urged me to do so. There wasn't a trace of that evil aura. Depending on what happened next, all that might end up as nothing other than my hallucination. That was not a hallucination, I saw it too. Thinking about it logically, if the daughter of the Furude household, one of the three families, had taken a liking to me, then this was a strong foothold for my investigation from here on out. It was like a free ticket for a reason to visit Hinamizawa. If only I could treat that little incident as a figment of my imagination, then having this girl who was the embodiment of my ideal daughter grow so attached to me wasn't bad either. Your wife is in labor! I had successfully dove into the belly of the Onikafuchi Guardians, and had the mayor, as well as other important members of the Alliance, welcome me with open arms. This was a great turn of events. Aren't you supposed to meet the informant tonight? However, I still felt uneasy. Getting back to the hotel, I forced down an almost painfully cold beer until I could clear my mind. The shock from that incomprehensibly strange incident continued to torment me. You're downing a beer while she's still here. That's a little interesting. Yeah, we were supposed to meet the informant. We gave Uishi a lot of money to pay off his gambling debts for that. We're not letting that go to waste. New tips unlocked. Going slow movie. Why I like rainy days. Barley tea, black tea, and a millstone. The terrifying shrine girl met with someone's adorable daughter. With Manju as the thing. Alright, let's view the new tips. Going smoothly. Alright, here we go. The sound of the car grew closer, followed by the sound of it braking as the engine cut out. At that moment, his up until now lackadaisical footsteps grew decisive as the man in the room dashed up to the wall beside the window and carefully peered outside. It was his comrade's car. Where are we? Even so, he still didn't relax his guard. Eventually, the sound of footsteps approached the door. Thump. Thump, 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 thump. It was the passcode.
帰ってきたね。開けちょくれな。俺だ。
Is this kidnapper?
ああ、お疲れ。今開ける。
After the locks were undone and the door opened, a man appeared, his arms laden with swollen plastic grocery bags. The bags in his hands had Seven's Mart written on them, with bread and milk cartons able to be glimpsed within. The contents of those bags were then spread over a sheet on the floor.
カップラーメン買ってきちゃう。お湯沸かせな。小僧はどうした？
Oh yeah, one of these guys probably is kidnapper.
ん？ずっと寝てる。
This is where the kid is.
手がかからなくて助かるよ。うんこ垂れるときは騒ぐけどな。
Yikes.
漏らさせんな。練習は万一のとき、やばいって。わかってるよ。猿グツワは定期的にチェックんな。外れてもまずいん。きつくも締め付けちゃあん。窒息させたら意味がなん。
It's a fine balance getting the gag just right.
わかってるって。あれ？携帯コンロのガス管頼まなかった？もうガスねえよ。 聞いてねえ。だは。
マジかよ。ついてくれよ。くそ。
Guess you're eating dry ramen tonight. He rattled the portable stove as he struggled to get it to light. Seeing that, the man who went to buy supplies let out a deep sigh, and with a backwards glance at that sight, began to walk to the corner of the room. The kidnapped boy was sprawled out on a sheet that was spread out on the floor.
小僧、元気かいね。
He can't say yes, he's gagged. Of course, the man didn't assume the kid was able to hear that question. That was because the boy's ears were plugged, with his eyes and ears thoroughly covered by packing tape. Also, his mouth was gagged with a thin, twisted-up towel. Because of that, the boy was unable to close his mouth properly, his cheeks sticky with his own saliva. Of course, that wasn't the only reason. Both his arms were tied tightly behind his back with a leather belt.
今んところ順調らし。命の心配はない。お前のじいさんがしぶり寄ったん。耳たぶの一つも切り落とさなきゃならんかったんけ。やらんくて済んで助かりや
What a
んよ。
nice man this kidnapper is.
本家はこうと決めたら鬼やんね。どんな残酷なこと命令するかも想像つかん。
Okay, then.
その本家が小僧に傷一つつけるな言うてんから、とにかく順調なんだろんな。
大臣はダム計画を撤回で水面下工作。ひなみ沢ダム計画は無期凍結へ。
There it is.
小僧の解放はいつ頃になるんだろうな。
That's the funny part. We don't.
早く一服したいもんだぜ。
本家が決着のタイミング測ってるらし。
Everyone
いつ
is
になるか
human.
はあらんが、
Everyone's got
近いう
good and
ち
bad
に
in them.
な。
よかったな小僧。もうじき解放されるぞ。
He can't hear you. The men didn't know if their voices were heard by the boy. For him, there was nothing that he could do but continue to sleep to escape his harsh reality.
それよん、ガスをどうするんね。ラーメン食えんよ。
You could. It just wouldn't be good.
ガス切れたなら言うてえなもう。
That's why I don't recognize the place, because I'm not supposed to. Oh, no. Okay, I see Little Mione and Coach in that third one. Well, first, why I like rainy days. The weather forecast had predicted that it wouldn't rain at all this entire week. It's not that I hate sunny days or anything. When every day is the same, unchanging sunny weather, however, anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. If it's simply clear skies for a week, a month, a year, anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. The weather specialist said that they had carefully scrutinized a large quantity of past data, so it wouldn't be so likely for the forecast to be wrong. I knew as much. But even then, there was occasionally a day where I was hoping that it would be wrong, as I stared up into the clear blue sky. Was I being mischievous in hoping so? I waited and waited, feeling almost suffocated by the boring blue sky undisturbed by a single cloud. If you could die from that suffocating feeling, then the population of Earth probably wouldn't have increased to this point. In other words, the only person who was being suffocated by this was me. And so, I welcomed the summer evenings where not even the weather forecast could predict a sudden shower. If I were to explain it like this, would you understand a bit more about how I feel? Let's say that tonight's dinner was going to be curry rice. It's Keiichi's house! But when you're called down to the dinner table, what was waiting for you was instead an eggplant and bell pepper stir-fry. I'd be very upset. This is just on your mother's whim, by the way. I would be delighted by such whimsy. I don't really like eggplants or bell peppers, but still, I would be delighted. The fact that the pre-established routine of curry rice had been broken would be amusing. If tonight was repeated 100 times, and 100 times you had to eat curry rice, yet for just this one night, that was changed to an eggplant and bell pepper stir-fry. There's no way you couldn't enjoy that chance happening. But why would you say... Okay, who is talking? I thought that this was Akasaka because he's the protagonist, but maybe not. I hate pre-established routines. I really hate when things are all decided beforehand. I have no love for boredom. I always get my hopes up that today, something today will be different from yesterday, no matter how trivial. It's been decided that this entire week starting today was going to be clear skies. The weather forecast decided upon it, so the god of weather must also feel obliged to do so. There it is! It's been decided. But who's to say that a rain cloud might not just show up one day on a whim? It's something that nobody can say for sure, but because that thought remains in this world, a creature such as myself can continue living without being suffocated. Tomorrow will probably be a hot and clear day. However, I'm the only one that knows that predetermined fate, even with but a slim 1% chance, sometimes changes. Hoping for that 1%, I hung up upside-down weather charms on my sunlit eavesdrop. That's not how that works. In the end, I spend my days waiting for those unexpected things in life to happen. I pondered why I was hoping for it. Why was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. I've had my fill of clear skies. Then, why was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. The fact that it was going to be sunny tomorrow was boring. So, why was I hoping for a rain cloud? In the end, it doesn't really matter whether it rains or shines tomorrow. Basically, it was just that the rain would water my heart, which was withered from boredom. That's why rather than a TV drama where the plot's already been decided, I prefer to look up at the sky. Yeah, they kept saying it's been decided, which is the same thing that quote-unquote Rika was saying. So maybe it's whatever possessed Rika? I have no idea. Alright, barley tea, black tea, and a millstone. Okay, here we go. I'm excited about this one. I mean, Coach is back, but...
だいぶ血圧も良くなってきましたよ。そのお年でこれだけの回復力があるのは、いやいや、感服するばかりです。
So this is regular Coach, but come on, we all know this is best Coach. Yep. We all know that this Coach is best Coach with the bussin' outfit. He has the nice face here.
お嬢さんなら100でも200でも元気にお過ごしになれますね。
Oreo! Are we gonna finally see Oreo? The young doctor in his medical coat said that as he undid the blood pressure cuff from the arm of an old woman tucked away in her futon. Yeah, it's the old girl. Yeah! There she is! Oh my gosh! We finally see the grandma! Let's go! It's grandma! There she is! Mion's grandma, I believe? Yeah, she's like the big, like, yeah, I'm in charge of the Sonosakis. Is she? Oh, nope, that's still how she looks in the console. Okay, that's weird. It's the same sprite, but if you don't have the console art style, she doesn't get the lip sync. The old lady, Oreo, laughed faintly with a broad smile on her face. Yeah, look at that smile. That's definitely a smile. Then, turning towards the sliding door, she called out in a strong voice. We expect her to be, like, really fat? I could see that, I guess. The sound of rushed footsteps from the hallway grew closer, until finally the doors slid smoothly open. I don't know why I was kind of expecting old Sophie from Howl's Moving Castle, but that was kind of what I was picturing in my mind. What it revealed was a young girl. It looked like the old lady's granddaughter. Is it? Oh my gosh, she's adorable. That's stinking cute. It doesn't even look young. Wow, it looks so bad. Oh no, folks, we've got a problem. I want the console style for Little Mion, but I want the Steam art style for Coach. No. All right, we got to do this one. She's old. She's an old fart. She's like a twig. I know. Mion's so adorable.
紅茶の方がいい？砂糖もミルクもたっぷり？
わしが加減するから入れんでええんね。砂糖壺とミルクも一緒に持ってきてんな。
Aw, this is so cute.
はい。
She got that wink. Young Mion changed tops in a different art style. It's also literally just like, we kind of made her sprite a little smaller. Nah, okay. I'm seeing now why people like the console art style. I wish I could mix and match some. That would be nice. The girl named Mion, after giving a rather uninterested response to her taskmaster of a grandmother, returned to the hallway.
先生の麦茶は来客用のガラス茶碗に入れるんよ。ちゃんとお座布団もつけてな。
We've got guests. Bring out the good cups. It's like the Mario cups.
水滴もちゃんと拭き取っとくんね。
Okay, Grandma.
待ってるって。うっさいな。
Yeah, fussy pants. A tired voice wafted a reply from down the hallway. The apathetic tone of the voice was far from unusual. The old lady let a wry smile slip across her face as she chided the girl.
しょうがないやっちゃな。叱られるうちが離んねえ、なんたく。
お嬢さん、まあ。そこまでは言わなくても。ミオンちゃんも若いなりに頑張ってますから。
あれの母親もな、しょうがないやっちゃったんね。
I I love how he's still calling him Coach, even though he's Dr. Eerie. I mean, Eerie's a funny name, but I don't know. Coach just sticks. The Eerie Coach.
で、その母親の母親もまたそっくりなんじゃないですか?
The old lady burst out laughing. Her expression showed that she hadn't taken the comment the wrong way.
入江先生、申し訳ない。症状開けてもらえんけんね。風が涼しそうだわ。
The cool chirping of the Higurashi had at some point started leaking through the gaps in the doorway. Eerie stood up and opened the door a bit. Ah, look at that! A refreshing breeze pushed out the stale air that had been built up in the room.
日中はだいぶ暑くなったように思うんですが、まだ朝夕は涼しいですね。夕べは少し肌寒いくらいでした。
そんな朝夕もまたひなみ沢のいいところな。
By the way, have I asked you to join the anti-dam project movement yet? Eerie replied with a smile as he returned to sit on the cushion beside the old lady. And then the two of them, for a little while, soaked in the voices of the Higurashi.
わしゃ100まで生きにせ。もうしばらくは死ねんよ。
Good luck with that.
ダムの剣。きっちり蹴りつけるまで。
Until I murder a couple more people.
かかって収まらんわ。
I'm not kicking the bucket just yet. Alright, sure, Oreo.
国が一度決めたことを撤回するのはなかなか難しいでしょうね。
Amen! You just get it, Professor.
国のやることはな、いつの世もイシウス回すみたいなもんね。そんでもだいぶ重いやっちゃ。
Oh yeah.
イシウスですか?
I don't know if I go that far.
知らんねか、イシウス。
Eerie quickly affirmed that of course he knew what the old lady was talking about. For he knew full well that Oreo didn't like having her stories interrupted.
国のイシウスはな、なんでもゴリゴリ引いちまう。大したもんよ。でもな、簡単には回らない。重いイシウスなんねんな。
Yeah, Donkey Kong has experience with that.
たくさんの人間がせーのってやってようやくじりじりと動き出す。そんなイシウスなんよ。
Eerie pursed his lips, listening quietly to what she was saying. There she is! Eventually, Mion returned with some tea laid out on a tray. Seeing that Oreo was talking and in a good mood, she quietly knelt down and laid out the sets for the barley and black tea, careful not to interrupt.
だから一度回り始めたら簡単には止められんね。回し始める一番初めが一番重い。それが嫌だからみんな手を休めんとゴリゴリ回し続けるんね。
摩擦係数の話でしょ。
Yes,
確かにバッタ
friction.
の話、理
Exactly.
屈はあるね。
It takes a village to push the millstone.
ちゅうことはだ。何かの間違いで突然イシウスが止まっちまったら、また回すにはどえらい力がかかる。ちゅうこったな。
Exactly.
確かに一度中断した計画をもう一度動かすのに必要なエネルギーはかな
Yeah.
りのものでしょうね。
簡単には止められんイシウスだけどな。一度止めれば二度とは回らん。
I don't know about that one.
そういうイシウスよ。
イシウスを止めるいい手があればいいんですがね。
When Eerie responded with that, Mion and the old lady suddenly sunk into silence. Eerie, instinctively thinking that he had said something rude, searched in a small panic for the words to correct himself. But that silence wasn't the result of rude words. For what crept across Mion and the old lady's faces were contemptuous smiles. Uh-oh. Yikes! I don't like I don't like that at all. We kill people. The atmosphere surrounding Eerie suddenly froze, leaving him flabbergasted. Thinking that the scornful smiles creeping across both their faces was the result of some mistake of his, he could only grow afraid. Yeah, I'd be a little scared. awkwardly laugh. It hadn't been that long at all since he was enveloped by silence. However, unable to stand it, Erie could only let out a weak laugh. Erie's laugh eventually spread to Mion and the old lady. Not knowing exactly what they were laughing at, their laughter left a lingering chill. The only ones not laughing were the Higurashi, who continued their simple and unchanging chorus. Alright, it's starting to get good. We hired the Yakuza to kidnap a child. It's okay. They probably did, let's be real. But then again, that would be a little too simple. We're going to get some kind of weird thing where it's like, guys, Keiichi did it before he moved here. Like, what?